You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in and stomp the big volcano out. Oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Don't mind me just practicing my Firelands dance moves. It has recently come to our attention that a few people with no sense of humor would prefer if our strategy guides did not contain jokes. So, let me take this moment to tell you that here at Learn to Raid, we take these guides very seriously and promise to step our game up. No more pussyfooting around, we're going to run down the abilities and walk you through the fight step by step. So, let's get to it. I'm Kinaesthesia and today I'll be going over the strategy for Lord Rhyolith on the normal 10-man difficulty. You have to break down this guy's armor piece by piece to see his true form, but once you read our guide, he'll have no armor left. Right, left, right, left. Lord Rhyolith is a two-phase fight. Phase 1 is about splitting DPS and controlling adds, while Phase 2 is a quick DPS race. The boss himself has around 15 million HP, and throughout the encounter he will spawn fragments of Rhyolith and sparks of Rhyolith. These adds have around 100,000 and 1.7 million HP each. Rhyolith actually consists of two separate mobs appropriately named Left Foot and Right Foot, each with around 15 million HP. These share a health pool not only with each other, but with Lord Rhyolith himself, who is of course quite attached to the feat. You'll want to bring 1 to 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers, and a balanced DPS makeup. Some groups may want to favor range, but it should not provide a major advantage either way. Your first order of duty will be properly training one raid member to drive the boss. How to Drive a Volcano is not the latest Michael Bay directed kids movie from DreamWorks. It's the gimmick, unique concept behind this boss. During the encounter, a unique UI element will appear on the screen to indicate the boss's intended path of movement. He cannot be tanked during Phase 1, and players will need to attack his legs to control the direction he walks. This may seem trivial at first, but where he walks during the encounter is of tremendous importance. Attacking his right leg will cause him to turn right, while attacking the left leg will cause him to turn left. He will walk straight on his own, and theoretically if even DPS is being applied to both legs. Let's go over this guy's abilities. Rhyolith begins the fight with an 80 stack of obsidian armor. Each stack reduces his damage taken by 1%. Throughout the fight, the boss will use his concussive stomp ability. In addition to dealing moderate fire damage to all players, this ability spawns multiple volcanoes across the platform. If at any point Rhyolith is allowed to walk into the lava on the outsides of the platform, he will use Drink Magma to deal very heavy fire damage to all players. Rhyolith will sometimes activate volcanoes, causing them to blanket the raid with mild but stacking fire damage. Occasionally, the boss will also cause streams of lava to flow from cratered volcanoes. These streams deal high fire damage to players they contact. Rhyolith will summon two types of adds throughout the encounter. Fragments of Rhyolith will deal mild splash damage to nearby players upon spawning. In addition, if they are not killed within 30 seconds, they will charge a random player and explode, dealing damage equal to their remaining health. Sparks of Rhyolith will cast a Hellfire-like ability, dealing mild fire damage to all players in a small radius. Because of their Infernal Rage ability, the damage sparks do will increase every 5 seconds. At 25%, Lord Rhyolith will enter Phase 2. Adds will no longer spawn in Phase 2, but Lord Rhyolith retains his Stomp ability and will now also use Immolation. This causes him to do mild fire damage to all players every second. Begin the fight by properly splitting up the raid. One team, preferably consisting of melee, will be in charge of DPSing the feat and essentially steering the boss. The rest of the raid will need to stay stacked up for healing purposes and make sure to handle the adds. One player should be in charge of calling out the driving team's intended direction. Melee will need to follow these directions and properly switch DPS to the correct foot in order to steer the boss properly. The goal of this is to direct the boss to walk over active volcanoes while avoiding walking off the platform and into the lava. Shortly into the fight, Rhyolith will concussive stomp. Upon doing so, multiple volcanoes will spawn randomly across the platform. Soon after this, one of these will become active and begin to blanket fire damage over the raid. Steer the boss quickly and efficiently to walk over the active volcano. successfully deactivating it and turning it into a crater. A few moments later, the crater may spout streams of lava out to the sides. These thin red lines will do big fire damage to those they hit, so make sure to avoid them. This is the basic rotation of Phase 1. The boss stomps, volcanoes form, step on the active volcano, avoid the lava streams, repeat. During all of this, players who are not steering will be DPSing adds down to make sure the raid is not overrun. If your raid is using one tank, his job is to pick up all of the adds. If your raid is using two, however, one tank will be in charge of tanking fragments while the other is in charge of sparks. It's best to assign one healer to each tank and one healer to the raid. If you're only using two healers, then cross-healing will need to be more prevalent. Be prepared to keep an eye on multiple people, as raid damage can ramp up quite drastically. Don't hesitate to use cooldowns on the spark tank when Infernal Rage grows higher. Remember that even if the tank damage seems manageable, the tank damage plus raid damage might not be. On these same lines, raid cooldowns should be used if any volcano has been up for an excessive amount of time. It will not always be easy to steer Rhyolith straight onto an active volcano, and the longer it takes, the higher the raid damage will become. Stomp will do huge damage if a volcano has been active too long, and the raid should use cooldowns to help survive. DPS priority is fragments, then sparks, then Rhyolith. There will not be much time for non-assigned players to DPS the boss, but when they can, make sure they are following steering directions or splitting DPS evenly between the feet. When the boss's HP reaches 25%, his armor will shatter and Phase 2 will begin. Phase 2 is another DPS race. The boss will not simply ignore your raid anymore, and a tank will have to pick him up. Adds do not spawn anymore, but Rhyolith's immolation ability will deal steady ticking fire damage throughout the phase. Have the raid stack in one pile a short distance from the boss. This phase will not last long at all, so the moment the transition occurs, or even slightly before, it is best to blow Heroism or Lust and use a Trink or Hymn to top off the raid. Continue to rotate cooldowns such as AM or Barrier throughout the remainder of the encounter, and the boss should fall in no time. One of the most difficult parts of this encounter is learning to drive the boss. Stay focused and don't let frustration get the best of you. It's kind of like the first time you drove stick. If, of course, your first car was a volcano. If you enjoyed this guide or found it helpful, remember to bookmark us at LearntoRaid.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Justin TV and Twitter. Thanks for checking us out here at LearntoRaid. As always, we hope this guide has been helpful, and we'll see you at the next boss.
I wasn't feeling so good. I just didn't feel like playing anymore. So I went home, and I got all comfy and cozy and all scrunched up in front of my phonograph. And I sat there and I closed my